I still remember the morning I decided to surprise my husband for his 40th birthday. Looking back now, 27 years later, I realize I was the one who received the surprise of a lifetime. It was a crisp Saturday morning in late March, and I had been planning this celebration for months. My husband, Kevin, had always been sensitive about getting older, and I wanted to show him that 40 was just the beginning of the best years of our lives. We had been married for 12 years at that point, and I thought I knew everything about the man I shared my life with. I'm a high school English teacher, and that spring I had taken a personal day to prepare everything. Kevin thought I was attending a teachers' conference in Colorado Springs, about an hour south of our home in Denver. I had told him I would be gone until evening, giving me the entire day to set up the surprise party. Our closest friends would arrive at 6, and Kevin would walk into a house full of people who loved him. At least, that's what I believed at the time. I had parked my car 2 blocks away, at Mrs. Patterson's house. She was an elderly neighbor who knew about the surprise and had offered her driveway so Kevin wouldn't see my Honda in front of our house if he happened to come home early from his Saturday golf game. I walked through the back gate, using the side entrance that led directly into the kitchen. The caterers weren't coming until 3, so I had plenty of time to decorate. As I stepped into the kitchen, I heard voices coming from upstairs. My heart jumped for a moment, thinking maybe Kevin had skipped golf, but then I recognized the second voice. It was Diane, my best friend of 20 years. We had met in college, been bridesmaids at each other's weddings, and raised our children together. Her daughter and my son had grown up like siblings. I was about to call out to them, thinking maybe Diane had come early to help with the decorations, when something made me pause. We had installed a Ring security system throughout the house 2 years earlier, after a string of break-ins in our neighborhood. Kevin thought the cameras were only at the doors and in the garage, but I had also placed one in his home office upstairs, where he kept his gun safe. I was always worried about burglars targeting that room specifically. The live feed went directly to an app on my phone, and I could hear audio as well as see video. I pulled out my phone and opened the app, turning the volume low. What I saw made my stomach drop. Kevin was sitting at his desk, still in his golf clothes, and Diane was perched on the edge of the leather couch across from him. They weren't touching, but there was an intimacy in their posture that made my skin crawl. "She has no idea," Kevin was saying, his voice carrying that confident tone I used to find so attractive. "Linda thinks I'm playing golf right now. She's so predictable, you know? Always believing whatever I tell her." Diane laughed, and the sound of it cut through me like a knife. She really is clueless. I almost feel bad for her sometimes. "Don't," Kevin said flatly. "After tonight, we won't have to feel anything about her ever again." I pressed myself against the kitchen wall, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. After tonight? What were they talking about? "Walk me through it one more time," Diane said, leaning forward. "I want to make sure we have everything covered." Kevin stood up and walked to the window, his back to the camera. "The party starts at 6. Linda will be running around, playing hostess, drinking champagne. You know how she gets at parties. By 9, she'll be exhausted and tipsy. I'll suggest we take a walk, just the 2 of us, to that overlooked spot in the park behind our house." "The one by the cliff?" Diane asked. "Exactly. It's a 200-foot drop. There's no railing, no lighting. People have slipped there before. It'll look like a tragic accident. The grieving husband who watched his wife fall and couldn't save her. I couldn't breathe. I literally could not make my lungs work. My husband of 12 years, the father of my child, was sitting in our home office planning my murder with my best friend." "And the insurance?" Diane asked, her voice taking on an eager edge that made me sick. $750,000, plus the house is worth about $600 now with the Denver market. The retirement accounts, the investments, we're looking at close to $2 million total, split down the middle, just like we agreed." "And then what? We can't exactly start dating right after your wife dies." Kevin turned back to face her, and even through the small phone screen, I could see the cold smile on his face. "We wait 6 months. I play the devastated widower. You play the supportive friend who helped me through the worst time of my life. By Christmas, we start being seen together. By next spring, we announce we've fallen in love. Nobody will suspect a thing." "What about Ryan?" Diane asked, and my heart clenched at the mention of my 10-year-old son. He'll adjust. Kids are resilient. Besides, you've always been like a second mother to him. He already loves you. The casual way he discussed our child, as if Ryan were just another detail to manage in his murder plan, filled me with a rage so intense I had to bite my lip to keep from screaming. Diane smiled and stood up, walking over to Kevin. She wrapped her arms around him and kissed him deeply. "I've been waiting for this for 3 years," she whispered. 3 years of sneaking around, pretending to be her friend while counting down the days until we could be together. 3 years. They had been having an affair for 3 years. Every girls' night, every time Diane had come over to help with dinner parties, every vacation where she had joined our family, she had been sleeping with my husband and plotting my death. I backed slowly out of the kitchen, moving as quietly as I had come in. My mind was racing, but underneath the shock and terror, a cold clarity was forming. I needed evidence. I needed help. And I needed to be very, very careful about what I did next. I made it back to Mrs. Patterson's house and sat in my car for 10 minutes, just trying to stop shaking. Then I called my brother, Thomas. He had retired from the FBI 5 years earlier after 25 years as a special agent. If anyone would know what to do, it would be him. "Tommy," I said when he answered, and my voice must have told him everything because his tone immediately shifted. "Linda? What's wrong? Are you hurt? I need you to come to Mrs. Patterson's house, the one 2 blocks from me. I can't explain over the phone, but it's about Kevin. It's bad, Tommy. It's really bad." He was there in 20 minutes. I showed him the ring footage, and I watched my older brother's face transform from concern to disbelief to a quiet, controlled fury. "That son of a bitch," he said softly. "And Diane? Jesus Christ, Linda. What do I do? Do I call the police? Will they even believe me? Kevin is a financial advisor, Tommy. He golfs with judges. Diane teaches Sunday school. I'm just a high school teacher who claims her husband wants to push her off a cliff." Thomas was quiet for a long moment, his FBI training visibly kicking in. "The footage is good, but a defense attorney could argue it's not clear enough, that they were joking, that you're misinterpreting. We need more. We need them to attempt it." I stared at him. "You want me to go to that cliff tonight? Let him try to kill me? I want you to wear a wire. I still have contacts in the Denver field office. We get you fitted with audio and video, we position agents in the park, and we let Kevin incriminate himself beyond any possible doubt. The moment he makes a move, we take him down. And if something goes wrong, what if he pushes me before your people can get there?" Thomas took my hand, and his grip was firm and steady. "I will be 50 feet away, Linda. I swear to you on Mom and Dad's graves, I will not let anything happen to you. But if we don't do this, if we just call the cops with what we have, he might walk. He might get a good lawyer, make bail. And then what? He'll know you know, and he'll try again. Maybe not with Diane, maybe not with a cliff, but he'll try again, and next time you won't see it coming." I thought about Ryan, about my son growing up with a father who had murdered his mother and gotten away with it, about Kevin and Diane raising him together, spending my insurance money, living in my house. "Okay," I said, "I'll do it." The next 8 hours were the longest of my life. I went home at 5 o'clock, carrying grocery bags and wearing a smile that felt like it might crack my face. I had a wire taped to my chest, so small and thin I could barely feel it. Thomas and 2 agents from the Denver field office were already positioned in the park. 3 more were stationed around the neighborhood in unmarked cars. Kevin greeted me at the door with a kiss. "How was the conference, honey?" "Long and boring," I said, setting down the bags. "But I'm glad to be home. Happy birthday, by the way. I have a little surprise for you later." He smiled, and I searched his face for some sign of what I now knew lurked beneath. But there was nothing. Just the handsome, charming man I had married, the man who had held me when I cried, who had been in the delivery room when Ryan was born, who had promised to love me until death do us part. The party started at 6. Diane arrived with a bottle of expensive wine and hugged me like we were the sisters I had always believed we were. "You look amazing," she said. "Kevin is such a lucky man." "Thank you," I said, and I wondered how I ever could have missed the falseness in her eyes. The evening proceeded exactly as Kevin had planned. I pretended to drink champagne while actually filling my glass with sparkling cider. I laughed and chatted with our guests, accepted their compliments on the decorations and the food. Kevin worked the room like the natural salesman he was, his arm around me whenever anyone looked our way. At 9 o'clock, he found me in the kitchen and leaned close to my ear. "Let's take a walk, just the two of us. I want to show you something." "Now?" I asked, willing my voice to stay steady. "We have guests. They'll be fine. This is important. Please." "Linda, I've been waiting all night for this." "I bet you have," I thought. We slipped out the back door and walked through the yard to the gate that led to the park behind our house. The night was clear and cold, the stars visible above the Denver skyline. Kevin took my hand as we walked, and I had to force myself not to pull away. "Do you remember when we first moved here?" he asked as we made our way down the trail. "We used to walk this path every night after dinner." "I remember," I said. "I miss that. I miss how simple things used to be. Sometimes I feel like we've grown apart, you know? Like we're roommates instead of partners." The manipulation was so smooth, so practiced. He was setting up his story. The grieving husband would tell everyone that we had taken a romantic walk to reconnect, that we had been talking about getting back to basics, and then tragedy struck. We reached the overlook. The city spread out below us, lights twinkling against the darkness. The cliff edge was less than 10 feet away, marked only by a few scrubby bushes. No railing, no warning signs, just a sheer drop into blackness. "It's beautiful up here," Kevin said, steering me closer to the edge. "Come look at the view." "I can see fine from here," I said, planting my feet. Something flickered across his face. Annoyance, maybe. Or impatience. "Don't be silly. Come on." He tugged at my hand, pulling me toward the cliff. I resisted, and for the first time, his mask slipped. "What's wrong with you?" he asked, his voice hardening. "Just come look at the damn view." "I know, Kevin." The words hung in the cold air between us. He stared at me, and I watched understanding dawn in his eyes. "You know what? I know about Diane. I know about the insurance money. I know what you're planning to do to me tonight." For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his face. But it wasn't the charming smile I had fallen in love with. This was something else entirely, something cold and reptilian. "Well," he said softly, "that does complicate things. The police know everything. There are FBI agents in this park right now. It's over, Kevin." He laughed, actually laughed. "You're bluffing. If the police knew, they'd be here already. You've got nothing, Linda, just like always. Nothing but your suspicions and your pathetic need to believe the best in people." He moved fast, faster than I expected. His hands closed around my arms and he shoved me backward, toward the edge of the cliff. I screamed, digging my heels into the dirt, but he was stronger than me. He had always been stronger. "You should have stayed at your conference," he hissed, his face inches from mine. "You should have let me give you one last happy night before the accident. But you had to go and ruin everything, didn't you? Just like you always do." "Kevin, please," I gasped, feeling the ground crumble beneath my heels. "Think about Ryan. Think about our son. Ryan will be fine. He'll have Diane. She'll be a better mother than you ever were." I was at the edge now. One more push and I would go over. I could feel the emptiness behind me, the cold wind rising from the canyon below. "I'll take care of everything," Kevin continued, his grip tightening. "I'll tell them you slipped. I tried to grab you, but I couldn't hold on. There will be tears, a beautiful funeral, and then Diane and I will finally be together, the way it should have been from the start." "Why?" I managed to ask. "Why didn't you just divorce me if you were so unhappy?" His eyes were empty. "Because this way I get everything. The money, the house, the freedom. Divorce would have cost me half. Your death costs me nothing." He pushed, and I felt my feet leave the ground. But before I could fall, hands grabbed me from behind. Not Kevin's hands. Other hands, strong and sure, pulling me back from the edge while voices shouted commands. "FBI, get down on the ground! Kevin Marshall, you're under arrest." I collapsed onto solid ground, sobbing, as agents swarmed Kevin and forced him face down into the dirt. Thomas was there suddenly, pulling me into his arms, his voice cracking as he said my name over and over. "I've got you," he kept saying. "I've got you. You're safe. It's over." They arrested Diane 20 minutes later at our house. She had been waiting in the living room, chatting with the few remaining party guests, when agents came through the door. I'm told she tried to run out the back. She didn't get far. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution played my Ring camera footage. They played the audio from my wire. They showed text messages between Kevin and Diane going back 3 years. Hundreds of them, discussing everything from their affair to their financial plans to the specific details of how they would stage my death. One text from Kevin read, "Make sure you cry at the funeral. Not too much, but enough to be convincing." Diane had responded with a heart emoji. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Kevin was convicted of attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and assault. He got 30 years. Diane was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and received 18 years. Neither one looked at me during sentencing. I was glad. I didn't want to see their faces ever again. That was 27 years ago. Kevin died in prison 6 years into his sentence. Heart attack. I didn't go to the funeral. Diane was released after serving 12 years, and I heard she moved to Arizona somewhere. I hope I never have to know more than that. As for me, I stayed in Denver for a few more years, but eventually the memories became too heavy. I sold the house and moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I knew no one and no one knew me. I needed to start fresh, to become someone other than the woman whose husband tried to push her off a cliff. I never remarried. People ask me about that sometimes, if I was too traumatized, too afraid to trust again. The truth is simpler. After Kevin, I learned that I could be happy on my own. I didn't need a husband to complete me. I had my son, my work, my garden, and a peace that I had never known existed until I found it. Ryan is 37 now, with children of his own. He struggled for a long time after the trial, and there were years when he barely spoke to me. He was angry, confused, grieving for the father he thought he knew. It took a decade of therapy and hard conversations before we found our way back to each other. Now he calls me every Sunday, and last summer he brought his family to Santa Fe for a whole month. Watching him with his own children, seeing the patient, loving father he has become, is the greatest gift of my survival. I'm 67 years old. I wake up every morning and drink my coffee on the patio, watching the sun rise over the mountains. I teach a creative writing class at the community center and tend to my vegetable garden. I have friends, a book club, a small life that is entirely my own. Every March, around Kevin's birthday, I take myself out to a nice dinner, not to remember him, but to remember myself. To remember the woman who walked into her kitchen expecting to plan a party and walked out knowing her life would never be the same. To remember that I survived because I trusted my instincts, gathered my evidence, and refused to be a victim. So if you're listening to this story and something feels wrong in your own life, if there's a voice in the back of your head telling you that the person you love isn't who they pretend to be, please listen to it. Check your security cameras. Read their text messages. Talk to someone you trust. Don't let anyone convince you that you're paranoid or crazy or seeing things that aren't there. Because sometimes the people who promise to protect you are the ones planning to destroy you. And sometimes the only person who can save your life is you. I learned that lesson on my husband's 40th birthday, and it's a lesson I carry with me every single day.